Well, I really can't say I'm surprised now, can I? Hey, what's up? This is Gardetrace. I've seen the live action Ghost in the Shell movie on its launch date. If you've been keeping up with my rants regarding that movie, you'll know that I had quite low expectations walking into the theater. After the end credits rolled, I really gotta say, I had every right to have low expectations about that movie because, god damn, that movie sucked. It was a good thing I didn't get my hopes up about it because if I would have, then boy was I in for a major letdown. This is a movie people were saying that could be the one good example of an live action anime adaptation, but it's just another fail. When it comes down to the movie, while most of it was absolute shit, there were a few elements of the movie I liked. So before I tear this movie a well-deserved new one, I will at least give it the benefit of the doubt and say the things that I liked about it first. For example, the special effects and props were actually well done. I especially like the use of animatronics for the robot geishas. I'm glad they didn't use CG to render the geisha bots, because that has always worked out well in the past, hasn't it? Also, the cars look pretty badass too. They do look futuristic, but they don't look impossible. So when it comes to the props, that's not this movie's problem. When it comes to characters, I really like Pailu Asbeck as Bato. He really looked the part for the role, as he's one of the best characters in this movie. Though I don't particularly like the fact that this movie makes up a story on how he got the prosthetic eyes. In this movie, his eyes were normal at first, got damaged in an explosion, and then he got them when Bato is actually supposed to have had the prosthetic eyes long before joining Section 9. Also, he was a bit too laid back in this movie. As I said in my anime review for Standalone Complex, Bato is actually a lot more aggressive, but this movie gives him a calmer vibe. Though that was hardly a problem for this movie and is easily forgivable. Now, as for the portrayal of Chief Daisuke Aramaki, he's more of a mixed bag. For example, he only speaks Japanese while everyone around him speaks English. Ask him something in English. He'll reply in Japanese. If I talk to someone in one language, I'd expect them to reply in the same language. The characters have to be multilingual in order for these scenes to make sense, though it's still weird. It isn't like the English dubs of any Ghost in the Shell anime do anything like it, so I really don't get the logic in it. One thing I like is how badass Aramaki is portrayed in the movie. His scenes are some of the most enjoyable ones this movie has to offer. He's more badass in this movie than he is in any version of the anime or manga, but for the sake of this movie, it works. Now that I got the good stuff out of the way, I'll be talking shit about this movie from this point onward, as nothing else is worthy of any praise. Let's talk about Section 9, who are really nothing more than advertised extras in this movie. Togasa was very miscast in my opinion, as he's portrayed by this old-looking guy, when Togasa is actually the youngest member of Section 9, and is a bit of a pretty boy in comparison to the other members. Not counting the Major, Bato, and Aramaki, he gets the most screen time out of the members, but he isn't very important to the plot, nor does he get any development. Hell, he doesn't even get his signature revolver in this movie. Aramaki has it. So they done fucked up. The other characters are simply one-scene wonders. We have a brief bit about Ishikawa and his drinking problem. We have Saito sniping the helicopter towards the end. Borma, who is being portrayed by a black guy with hair for some fucktarded reason, doesn't even get camera focus as much as he is briefly in the camera's range of vision. And Pazu, wait, where the fuck is Pazu? He's not in this movie. Who is this bitch on the team? Ladia? Ladria? Lady N? Who gives a fuck what her name is? She doesn't exist anywhere in the Ghost in the Shell franchise. She was made up for this movie. What for? You already have the members of Section 9 to cast, so why make up a character for no reason? Section 9 has a Smurfette principal, with the Major being the only female on the team, so the inclusion of this bitch fucks that up. Pazu already doesn't get much screen time in any continuity, so he's really fucked over in this movie. Now when it comes to the Major herself, she was really made into quite a puss in this movie. She isn't the field leader of Section 9 like she's supposed to be, and instead pretty much a rookie to everyone else. After we see her creation, this movie time skips a year later where we see Motoko as a member of Section 9. She has no authority over anyone, and I can't blame them for not making her one because she makes a lot of rookie mistakes and gets captured or hacked into one too many times in this movie. The Major in this movie is a Major simply in name only, as opposed to being an actual ranking Major. The Major in this movie has a lot of internal turmoil over who she was in the past when she was human, and is driven to learn the truth about herself. The Major in the manga and across the different anime don't give a flying fuck about their past lives. Their origin stories are different for each version, but the lack of concern about their past stays constant. What the Major really wants is to discover what makes her alive, what really makes her who she is. In the world of Ghost in the Shell, where the line between man and machine is incredibly thin, the Major, who is a full prosthetic cyborg, wants to show that she can be just as alive as any human can be. Her past doesn't even get brought up in the 1995 movie, and it really doesn't matter to her or to the plot. She may have been cyberized for corrupt reasons, but that doesn't matter, and she welcomes her cyberization. Live action Motoko goes completely off the rails when it comes to characterization. She was created for corrupt reasons by Cutter, the CEO of Honka Robots. As for any continuity of Ghost in the Shell is concerned, she is not the first of her kind. Not by a long shot. Also, the Major in this movie is referred to as Mira Killian instead of Motoko Kusanagi. At first, I was about to rage at them Americanizing the name. Come on, you already have a lot of bad press for whitewashing. You gotta gringo the name too? I personally don't care that Scarlett Johansson is cast to play the Major, but I do have an issue with the name change, just as I had an issue with Pazu not being in this movie. It turns out to be a subversion, as Mira Killian is the name her creators gave her. It turns out she was originally a Japanese woman named Motoko Kusanagi, which would have been a good subversion if it weren't for several issues. 1. Motoko Kusanagi is supposed to be the name she gives herself in the anime and manga, and it's most likely isn't her real name, Not that she cares. 2. The revelation of who she was so crappily revealed in that absolute bore of a scene where she's having tea with a woman who turns out to be her mother, which was a major ass pull. Pun intended. 3. They kept her Japanese face obscured, so we don't even get to know what she looked like. 4. There's too much emphasis throughout the movie on how her Caucasian look is beautiful, and Kuze comments on how he could never be that beautiful. 5, and most egregious, they completely gloss over the fact that a Japanese woman was murdered, experimented on, and had her brain put into the body of a white woman, erasing her ethnicity completely. Wow. Good job. You managed to dig an even deeper ditch. Even if this wasn't intentional, there are too many unfortunate implications with this. It seems like nothing more than an excuse to justify the whitewashing, and the movie isn't even smart enough to provide any clever commentary on it. It is stated in the beginning of the 1995 movie that their advancements have not wiped out ethnic groups, but Motoko's ethnicity was wiped out in this movie, and what that does is ultimately make cyberization seem like a very corrupt, evil thing, which misses the point entirely. Cyberization is widely accepted in society, and it's viewed as a positive advancement in technology. And this movie gives a giant middle finger to the themes presented in Ghost in the Shell, the fans of Ghost in the Shell, as well as Motoko Kusanagi herself. Oh, and don't get me started with this scene here. What was it supposed to be? A half-ass hint towards this? Or this? I don't fucking know. As for Cutter, it's so fucking obvious right from the get-go that he's the bad guy. He's nothing more than a generic, corrupt businessman in a sci-fi movie. How many other sci-fi movies have a basic-ass character like him? He has no real motivation. He has no real characterization. He's just bad because he's bad. This movie boils down to nothing but a basic revenge plot, which really dumbs every aspect of Ghost in the Shell down, as everything is so cliche and obvious, it spoon feeds you all the answers. Ghost in the Shell spoon feeds you nothing. You have to think for yourself what is going on, and many things are intended for you to come up with your own personal answers for the themes presented. Ghost in the Shell is subtle about how it goes about telling the plot, and the answers aren't so black and white. This movie throws subtlety out of the window and does nothing but make a generic sci-fi action flick with scenes and characters from the franchise thrown into it. Action was too much of a priority, as it takes everything about Ghost in the Shell completely at face value, and it takes away all of the meaning from it. It shamelessly recreates a lot of scenes from the 1995 movie, and the plot features a mismatch of elements from Standalone Complex, Innocence, and Arise. Kuze is a character from Standalone Complex Second Gig from the Individual 11 storyline. In this movie, he's more like a combination of Kuze, the Puppet Master, and the Laughing Man, and he offers nothing within the realms of intelligence in the movie, as it's too obvious who the real bad guy is. Everything turns out to be a total clusterfuck in execution. The city this movie takes place in has these giant hologram advertisements, something not present in any version of Ghost in the Shell, and there's something that screams generic cyberpunk bullshit. This movie has many moments where it focuses on the city, and it feels like it has nothing important to say at the moment when it does. In a 1995 movie, we have a scene where the Major is going around the city and the focus is on the landscape. It helps in a narrative sense to give off a sense of world building for the movie. In a live action, it's more like, ooh, look at the pretty colors. Our story sucks, so we hope this makes up for it. It doesn't. The live action movie is all style and no substance. It's all shell and no ghost. This movie is more like a combination of RoboCop, The Matrix, and Jason Bourne. This movie can be best described as RoboCop with tits. I didn't come to see RoboCop with tits, I came for Ghost in the Shell. But all I got was shell, and the ghost was on vacation. This movie does nothing to prepare newcomers to the Ghost in the Shell franchise, and it is so cliche and forgettable that it'll likely turn off newcomers from giving the anime and manga a chance. You know what? This movie barely qualifies as RoboCop with tits, as Motoko has no nipples in this movie. This movie definitely should have pushed for an R rating, and no, not for scenes like this. More so for scenes like this, as the tank scene in this movie was just so horribly fucked up. Actually, there's an entire article on why this movie should have gone with an R rating, and I'll leave a link in the description below. As a matter of fact, there was this project that was being done which recreates scenes from Ghost in the Shell that does a much better job at recreating them than this movie does. This movie was just so bad. In the theater, I actually got up and yelled out, "This movie's bad and you should feel bad," when the end credits rolled, and somebody in the audience actually said, "I know, right?" So hey, at least I'm not the only one who thought this movie was a complete piece of crap. This movie pretty much sucks on either end. Whether you're a casual moviegoer or an anime fan. Of course, it goes without saying that the anime fans are going to be greatly disappointed in this pile of shit. But when it comes to casual moviegoers that haven't seen Ghost in the Shell or really anime in general, they probably will say that this movie is still nothing more than a great big cliche because, well, the things presented in this movie and the way it goes about things is just such a cliche in sci-fi movies nowadays. So you can thoroughly predict everything, and the movie couldn't even qualify as serviceable. Pretty much the movie is total shit from start to finish, with a little bit of good elements sprinkled in there, but those little elements don't help the movie's case. Now, this movie has the highest level of production values of live-action anime adaptations, and many people thought this would have been the first step in the right direction, but this movie turns out is nothing more than yet another example of why you shouldn't make live-action adaptations for anime. This movie is just complete shit no matter how you look at it. And as far as I'm concerned, I really hope Hollywood would get the point and stop trying to do this, as there's no need for these live-action adaptations anyway, especially if they're just gonna fuck the source material in the ass the way this movie does, and the way virtually all live-action anime adaptations do. But of course, Hollywood hasn't learned their lesson. As a matter of fact, moviegoers as a whole have not learned the lesson, as we're gonna have quite a few more live-action movies coming out soon, such as Death Note, Bleach, Naruto, oh my god, kill me now, So what did you guys think of the live action Ghost in the Shell? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Also like and subscribe for more content to come. Anyway, with that being said, have a good day everyone. Thanks for watching this video. This is Trace, signing out.